Welcome back for the second installment of the Flyover Show Uprize podcast.
Yo, all lies, the tired holders fly over. Breathe life in the valley of dry bones. Fly over. Reclaim these alleys and streets, this is my home. From BC, we fly and defy time zones. Over your head. Over your head.
My name's Soweto Kinch, and this week, I thought it was fitting to showcase another one of our incredible headline artists. She's both an incredible instrumentalist and vocalist, and someone whose soulful and original material is guaranteed to leave you spellbound. The inimitable, the irreplicable Ayanna Witter-Johnson.
Stars, let them know that I am ready for love. Who gets to decide when Cupid's arrow lets go? The course of true love never did run smooth. Still I'm ready for you. Yes, I'm ready for you.
So we both sat down to have a chat about London, growing up in a West Indian household, all things Ayanna, all things Flyover, and lots more. I do hope you enjoy this conversation. And of course, make sure that you're here at the Hockley Flyover on Saturday the 18th of August to catch Ayanna Witter-Johnson performing live. Ayanna, it's really good of you to come through and good to see you.
You too, my darling.
You're a super busy bunny. You just come back from mashing up the stage in Birmingham.
I did. It was my first headline show in Birmingham.
Amazing.
It was great.
And who was your personnel? Who did you have in the band?
It was just me.
Wow. So I'm super excited about having you in the Flyover show doing the same thing.
Yes.
We've played some solo material. Hopefully you'll be jamming.
And with the band, yeah, because in my head I'm just imagining it being like a great vibe. Yes. And for some of my songs, the band really does like bring it out.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm. I can't wait. I'm sure the musicians as well. We've got the butterflies sensation.
Yes,
like,
it's going to be great.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start at the beginning, beginning.
Yeah.
Really, how did you get into cello specifically, into music, and what role did your family play in that?
Yeah, so the cello was an offshoot of the piano.
Right.
So I started the piano at 4, and by the time I got to secondary school, I was kind of being the teacher's assistant in the music classes, and he felt like I wasn't being challenged and I needed a new challenge and potentially a new instrument. So that's how the cello.
So many people start on piano though. I started on piano. I had some lessons from a sister from the local Catholic church, like showed me some organ skills. But because you can see all the harmony and stuff, it's a great way to.
It's beautiful. You kind of get the dexterity in both fingers. You don't have to make a sound. The sound's there,
right.
So it's already like.
Just push a button. See what happens.
Exactly. So that was good grounding for me. I loved the piano, and so coming to the cello, it was a bit of a process of elimination. My mum was like, no woodwind, no brass,
no
drums in the house. So that left the strings, and I thought the double bass was too big. I thought my hands were too big for the violin. I didn't know what a viola was. Left with the cello. So.
Was it an instant connection you had with it? Because I know from my own saxophone experience, the minute you picked it up and...
Wow. I practiced every day in the kitchen. I was on that thing every day, playing my long notes, open strings. I loved it. And because I could read music, like I was progressing really quickly through this book I had. And like...
So how old are you this time?
I was like 12 and a half, 13.
It's sort of a good age to get the bug for any kind of music, isn't it? Because
true.
I was 9 when I started the saxophone, and there was definitely a couple of years where it was like, it's so heavy.
Right. I was 9 when I was like, I want to give up the piano, I don't want to practice.
Right.
So yeah, it was nice to kind of have a real enthusiasm for an instrument at that time. Yeah.
Another interesting strand is that we both kind of share some background in thespian.
Yes.
I grew up, my father being Don Kinch, a playwright.
Yes.
My brother's father as well, Brian Bavell. And I remember seeing your father in films and stuff.
Yeah, my dad, Will Johnson, he's an actor, and just super proud of everything he's done. And actually, we had a radio interview which was really lovely, and just talked about the influence of being in the theatre growing up, like always being, you know, backstage, seeing rehearsals, being in royal boxes at the Globe, like, you know, just having access to arts and culture in a way that not all my peers did.
You don't necessarily conceive of it as such a privilege when you're a kid as well, right? But the whole process of taking something from just an idea through rehearsals.
Especially for you, as you know, my father, he produced a few films, so getting to see him move into more of a directorial space and a producer, and just knowing that it's a long journey and that the best thing to do is stick with it and be focused. Like, those are really big takeaways. Yeah,
and it's so easy for people who don't come from that background to sort of just see the product without recognizing the process, the hours of thought that go into a composition. It's just,
yeah. I've got one of those coming up. I've got a string quartet commission this year.
Oh, wow.
And next week I was just like, I'm taking myself away from London with no phone. I need to write. I need space to focus, you know? Like,
tell me more about Mum as well. I mean, just in terms of identity and sort of stability, it must have been.
Yeah, no, she played violin in the school orchestra, so she had an appreciation for what it meant to practice.
Right.
And so she was always on me, like, you're going to practice, I'm paying for these lessons, you're going to do the thing.
I got all this leftover resin here.
Yeah, but you're just going to make it work. So I really appreciated her believing in the fact that I could progress and do really well, and she saw that kind of aptitude in me quite young. And both parents really had an eclectic taste in music. You know, my passion for Steely Dan comes from my mom, you know, Brenda Russell, all of my kind of like roots reggae, R&B from my dad. Like, so it was a nice sort of mixture
blending of things.
I
guess we probably lived through times when people were very genre obsessed. Like, I'm a jazz guy, I'm a hip hop guy, I'm a grime guy, whatever. But I don't know about you, I sort of feel like the genres are melding a lot more. It's harder to draw lines between. It's harder to draw lines. People are collaborating more. It's sort of like, oh, so-and-so's collaborating with so-and-so. It doesn't have the same kind of, there aren't the same lines being drawn, especially when you can just make a playlist with a million things and they all coexist. I've often felt, though, as somebody of African Caribbean background as well, that it can be an uncomfortable thing we're supposed to negotiate. Like, somehow playing jazz and loving hip hop are two opposite, you know, they're pulling you in opposite directions. You want to disrespect women and stroke your beard and wear, you know what I mean? You like classical music, so you're supposed to be highbrow.
Right, I mean, I get the assumptions all the time. If I've got a cello on my back, you know, all the assumptions come out. Which orchestra do I play in, and this, and this. And then I say, no, I don't quite do that. It's not quite that. Just come to a show. That's the best way.
Well, I heard you describe your music recently as electric orchestral R&B or eclectic.
Eclectic orchestral R&B.
Break that down.
Acoustic soul. Break it down. So to me, it's literally like a fusion of all the things that I've just kind of grown up on and appreciated the most. So in terms of orchestral R&B, so with the album, there's a lot of groove, soul, blues, but in terms of the arrangements, that's contemporary classical, or like that's where that side of me comes into it. So that's where I've blended the two.
And interestingly, I guess again, you don't sort of think, now I'm doing the contemporary classical bit, it's part of you and your identity.
It's all about expressing the emotion of the song. What does the song need? Some songs need a particular type of arrangement. Some don't need any strings. Some just need me and Ruben, my cello. So it all depends on the song.
Just one step back here.
Yeah.
You named your cello Ruben.
Of course. Of course.
Of course you do.
As you do.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I went to, at the time, it was almost a predominantly Jewish secondary school. And it was a girls' school, but we made friends with boys from other schools, and the name Ruben was kind of floating about in the ether, and that's how that came about.
So if your friends are like, "You got a boyfriend there?" You'd be like, "Yeah, nah, me and Ruben, yeah.
We're hanging out tonight.
I'm just shedding.
Hanging out." So yeah, that's. But you know, it's quite prophetic because Ruben being like the first tribe, biblically speaking, and him being my first cello, I kind of enjoy that sort of
connection.
Yeah.
Tell me again what's inspired this album a bit, and thematically, and a bit about the musicians that you've assembled to
Yeah, so my debut album really is me expressing my experience as a Black British, Black Caribbean British citizen, I guess. My experiences in North London, specifically things I've seen, relationship with my parents, the growth spurts that I've experienced spiritually. It's quite political, my ancestors. So there's a lot of cultural identity woven into it through like stories I've experienced.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So in this sort of autobiographical process as well, right? Or not quite, but...
It's cryptic. I tend to write these sort of like dual songs. So like with my song Black Panther, for example, on one level, it's a love song. You know, on another level, it's telling the experience of my great-great-great-great-grandmother or any one of my great-great-great-grandmothers that have traveled the Middle Passage from West Africa to Jamaica. So I like to write songs that give the listener a different experience depending on how deep they want to go into it.
Have there been moments like when you're practicing or certainly composing for these songs where, I'm just picking up on things you said, really, where you feel like you're a conduit for ancestors communicating, or spiritually that you're a conduit?
I always feel like that on a gig. Sometimes in the songwriting process, definitely with Black Panther or Rise Up, those songs, some songs do feel like I'm channeling that, but on a show, I'm always trying to connect on a spiritual level.
It's a bizarre thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can break it down for non-performers, where you're at once in your body, you're aware of yourself, but you can't be, you know? You've got to...
Yeah, so I, in the beginning, I used to worry about, are the audience gonna like me? What are they gonna think? And now, it's not so much that, it's more, am I really present? Because I want them to feel a certain energy, and if I'm in the way worrying about me, myself and I'm not going to be open enough to let that energy kind of be in the room. Yeah.
I hear that. And it's also picking up on the energy from an audience as well.
Yeah. Oh, I really experienced that last night. It was such a different vibe to a London audience.
Just tell the world that Birmingham was the greatest city.
I told them that they were the best. And it's funny because it was really, the lighting changed things. When the lighting changed, when I had played certain songs and opened up to them. And I think in the beginning, they were just trying to take me in. It's like, who, what? What's going on here? And I wasn't sure where we were as a collective. But I just kept it real. I think I said to them, you can ask me anything, anytime. And someone asked me something, they went straight in on the deep end about authenticity. And then I just went straight in. And after that, we were all kind of in this together. Yeah.
And it's, sometimes we've got a prescribed way of expecting an audience to behave, right?
Yeah.
So if you're appreciating it, you're going to clap loudly and whoop and stuff.
You're going to whoop and then I'm going to hear you, you know. And it's funny because I teach the audience a Jamaican folk song in my set, Hill and Gully, one of my favourite ones. That's the one. And I had some Jamaicans in the front row. And it's funny because I heard one of them say, that's sweet me, and I was like, yes. It's like, it's nice that people really feel
part of it. And you wouldn't necessarily get that in London or everywhere there's gentrification.
Yeah, you know, and I love that regardless of whether or not you're Jamaican or not, audiences always sing it, they always enjoy it. You know, it's like people want to learn something new, they want to know where you're from and appreciate that.
So are both sides of your family Jamaican?
Yeah, I'm like one of the few people who's in my generation born here, you know what I mean? Because by the time it kind of comes down, people are from a mixture of islands and whatnot. But yeah, all four of my grandparents are from Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fitty. Myself, half Barbados, half Jamaican.
Okay, I was wondering, I was thinking, that's a very good blend, yeah. I'd like to go to Barbados actually, I've never been.
But it's interesting where we started talking about identity that often we don't know what to straddle. It's like a Black Caribbean, Black British. Yeah. I feel more recently, maybe over the past 10 years, there's a new assertive group of which you're definitely one of them, Black British artists who don't have to kowtow to just West Indian stereotypes or American or African stereotypes.
I was going to say the American influence is so strong, you know, musically speaking, it's really strong. And I've just, my dad reminded me that his grandfather, so my great-grandfather Joe, was a mento box player in a mento band in Jamaica.
Wow.
Yeah, Grandpa Joe went traveling around playing this mento box, like a kalimba and a cajon and a bass all in one. And so I'm thinking about exploring some of that mento music now and just seeing where that takes me, because it's beautiful. I so want to hear that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And these sort of folk instruments and this folk language that most Jamaicans are not aware of.
I know, because there's so much in Jamaica because of the different African cultures that the various slaves came from. There's just all kinds of drumming traditions. Like, I've got this great book with like 25 different types of drumming traditions, and that's just drumming, you know. Like, forget the folk and all of that. So yeah,
it's probably a huge work to be done, because it's people like Marjorie Wiley who's brilliant, and knowledge of like chromanti rhythms and rhythms. But after a while we just think it's just a beat, right? Maybe that is the liberating thing about being a Black Briton, though, right? So we don't have to feel so burdened by this is a Yoruba beat.
Right, we have the freedom and the license to just really explore different things and to bring them all into one place. Because that's your experience as someone born here with a heritage from multiple places. That's what it is. Yeah.
You're also somebody who's been in the academy a couple of times. You've been at the Laban School in Manhattan.
Trinity Laban and Manhattan School of Music.
Some of the most prestigious and certainly demanding musical institutions in the world. What was that like on your musical chops and culturally as well for you?
Going to Trinity was the beginning of this entire chapter. Before that, I was someone who was very musical, who had musical abilities on an instrument, who wrote a little bit. I didn't have a sense of a career and wanting to be an artist per se. So even going, I didn't have that idea in my head even then when I started. I was like this sponge, this really young and fresh kind of like just baby, like willing to listen to everything from like Zappa to Berio, like you name it, I listened to it. Spent years just exploring different things, making friends with jazz musicians, and I think from that chapter really, that was the beginning of a huge education for me, musically and as an artist.
So you would have had educators like Jean Toussaint was at Trinity at the time?
Jean Toussaint was coming in and out. I was technically in the classical composition department.
Sneaking out once in a while. and really learning a lot from my friends. Right. Yeah, that's where my education came from. Trinity was really an intense time because the composition course was demanding. There was a lot, and I didn't have my own voice yet. I felt like I was trying different things and happy to do that. And then outside of that, I was making friends, going to jam sessions, learning about all the jazz musicians, going to concerts, doing work experience at different places, doing copyist work, making friends with Jason Yard and doing some of his copying work and really learning a lot from him, being in Courtney Pine's big band, and so lots of practical experiences for me, meeting Nitin Sawhney, being an emerging artist in residence. I mean, what's the difference between a theoretical education, which is really important from Laban and Manhattan, but also the practical apprenticeships of being on the road with someone like Courtney or Nitin Sawhney? What do you pick up from those guys that you couldn't from reading a book?
Those guys lead by example. Courtney, Jason, Nitin, watching them sound check, watching them practice, watching them how they score something, how they do charts, how they communicate with the band, how they write, how they improvise, how they conduct themselves as people with other people. Because a lot of it is making friends and building relationships with people. A lot of the contacts I've made and the relationships I've built have come off the back of, yes, being capable and doing good work, but also how you are with people. And I think watching them as leaders was just invaluable. And
then getting to New York. Don't want to give you an age or anything like that, but what was this like? A while back.
A little while back.
What was that culturally a shock to you as well, or musically a massive challenge? How did that feel?
New York felt very experimental, a lot more experimental. It felt like everyone was doing everything on every street corner everywhere. Everyone's an artist. Everyone's making music.
And there's
Everyone's
some
an actor.
cat playing buckets
Everyone's
on the street corner who's like the best drum you've ever heard.
Yeah. Everyone's creative. Cuba reminded me of that as well.
Yeah.
Just everyone on every street corner being super talented.
Yeah.
And it's a very inspiring place as a student and as someone who's interested in learning. And I think because it wasn't my hometown and I had to make friends, I was just totally on this big adventure. Yeah.
Another massive thing I've noticed certainly about your work is, I think the first major work I saw you perform, I'd seen you doing gigs and guesting and stuff, but I saw your Nina Simone tribute, which was quite a few years
comedian.
back. That's right.
Yes,
that was
yes,
amazing.
yes,
And with
yes.
film and with her repertoire. You've done an Ella Fitzgerald tribute.
Yes.
And most recently we collaborated on an Arthur
Russell,
thing at Jazz Cafe.
yes.
What sort of things do you sort of glean from other people's music? How does that process equip you to write your own stuff, perhaps?
Do you know what? It's a beautiful process. It really is. I think digging into Arthur's music was so liberating to kind of understand how much someone can enjoy the process of something. I've not seen someone's process so out in the open.
Yeah.
And just to know, oh, I could potentially release 7 versions of one thing
song, right.
in completely different ways. Yeah. So I think when you dig into someone like that and then you read about their lives, you understand it takes away that kind of glamour, that instant glamour. Oh, Ella Fitzgerald, these are big names, Nina Simone. When you read about their experiences, what led to this song, that song, the other, why they would sing this, why they worked with that person, you think it's really a journey, and you can appreciate that you're doing the right thing. You're living life, and sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down. Especially with Ella, I was shocked at how intense her life was and how beautiful her music and her voice was in response to everything that was going on.
Shocking level of humility, like even at the end of her life, being sort of
Even
like,
at the end.
the only reason they like me is because of the songs. No, it's because you're one of the greatest
You're
musicians
just
ever.
Incredible, yeah. And I think it's really lovely to have the balance of artistry, knowing what it takes to produce that kind of work and that sound, and seeing how the sounds change, how their output has changed. You know, a tisket, a tasket from various.
Like entertaining.
It's just completely, a journey for them, and you can enjoy that and see what resonates with you most from all of that. And often the later work where there's freedom and there's just just a joy in the craft or a joy in their own sound. And
it certainly makes them so much more relatable, as you said. You can hear John Coltrane or Charlie Parker or Ella or Sarah Vaughan and just think, wow, I'll never do that.
Right.
But again, just understanding the process. The
journey. And I think with Nina, because when I internalize people's music and then I try to do my own version, I always have to bring it through my own filter. I just really appreciated putting your soul into the song, music. Be there, and with Arthur, be really present and really, you don't have to do too much on top of that. You just have to be you and present.
Right.
And that's enough. It doesn't have to be pitch perfect, note perfect, whatever else. You just have to be there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Kind of honor the moment.
Honor the moment, yeah.
Tell me about, this is a fascinating experience. I can't imagine what this must have been like for you. What was amateur night at the Apollo like? Did you have to go through round? I want to know from the beginning, from like applying.
Yes. Okay, so here's the story, right? Here's the story.
Yeah.
It was like a tale of two worlds. I'm at Manhattan School of Music. Again, it's very much I'm in the classical composition department. And doing Apollo was like, it's a whole different world.
We don't hear no bar talk over here.
Do you know what I mean? And it's similarly the school, just like, oh, okay, like.
So there is this sort of cultural rift.
There's a cultural difference, and they're just completely different worlds. One's entertainment and the other is art in that sense. And the two do mix, but one's a business, and I guess they're both businesses. So I was there studying, and Peter Edwards, amazing piano player, great pianist, was over on holiday. So he was like, oh, let's catch up, because he was playing in my band at the time before I left. So I showed him around Harlem. We were walking down the main street in Harlem, and we walked past the Apollo. I was like, Pete, this is the Apollo. And it said auditions today, you know, and Pete was like, what? Auditions for what? So we went in, found out it was amateur nightlife, and he was like, go get your cello and come back. I was like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Well, I want to know what the room of other auditioners was like. There's sword swallowers, tap dancers.
So I couldn't audition that day, right? Because it was full. So they said, come back first thing in the morning. I was like the first person in the queue. I didn't even tell anyone. I thought, all right, you know what? Only Pete will know whether or not I've got it or not.
Okay.
So I came back. It was like 9-year-old girls belting out Whitney. I was like, I'm in the wrong place. Honestly, and they were great. I was like, I'm not in the right place. I'm not in the right place. I've got this song, this speech from Sojourner Truth, and I've written this song, and I feel like I just want to do it because she's part of American history, and I'm in America, and if I'm going down with my own song, you know. I can't go down and blame Whitney or blame Mariah. We're not going to do this. So they let me in. I think they just thought, who's this British girl with a cello? And really, I shouldn't have entered because I wasn't American, but I did. And I
got it for a day. Be like, yo, my auntie, she's from New Orleans, yo.
I've got a lot of family in Queens, to be fair, so it's all good. But
Jamaicans,
right? Completely living right near Jamaica as well, Jamaica Queens. So I did the first round. Didn't expect much. I just wanted to be on the stage, rub the tree, like the great tradition, just be there and say I sang at the Apollo. That was enough. And I won that first round. I was like, whoa, okay. And where I lived was this great place called International House. And every time I went back, like more and more people from International House just came and just like supported me. They were like my gang, maybe like 200 of them must have come like one time. And it just got bigger and bigger. The stakes got higher and higher, and I kept winning. So like the first round, the second round, I won the third round. Then I was in this final, like the super top dog final.
Wow.
And it was hard. Like I fought for that and triumphed. I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
Can't believe it.
Were there points where you thought, you know, I've made it far enough? Or
you know, no, to be honest,
the momentum was like,
the further it went on, the more I wanted to win.
I got to win.
I'd love to say I was cool about it. I was like, no, I want to win out here. But what was beautiful was I got to ride on a float with Gladys Knight in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade that year, and meet Gladys Knight, and it was beautiful. It was a nice story, and it just gave me the confidence to want to be a performer and not necessarily just a composer behind closed doors.
There is something qualitatively different sometimes about performing in rarefied great venues as you've done, but then going somewhere like the Apollo in Harlem, or dare I say it, Flyover show in Birmingham, where you know what I mean, where there's a community audience, sometimes a predominantly black audience, but certainly a rooted audience that is going to appreciate your music in a different way.
I've heard great things.
Trust me.
I've heard great things.
Serious
I'm
things.
excited. I've heard great things, and I want to do more outdoor shows. So a lot of my shows are concert halls, basically. And I think it's really important to be able to flex that muscle of being able to entertain an open audience.
Yeah.
It's a different skill.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And people's attention spans can be all over the place if there's distractions and whatnot. How do you make eye contact with somebody at the back of a massive crowd outdoors? And
how do you embrace that, and how do you just give the best of what you have to offer?
And just sonically, where the sound isn't bouncing off of the walls.
Right.
You're instrumenting the same way.
I know. It's like deep.
There are any sort of wishes you have? Because one thing that the Flyover show, certainly I set it up to communicate, is that amongst generations, I sometimes feel that us black people have a particular issue. Like every new musical innovation is old within 5 years. We keep moving on. We sometimes have a pained attitude towards our elders for whatever reason and think, well, I don't have to listen to that John Coltrane stuff. Or these kids are rubbish, they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Is there, how do you fit yourself within that? discussion?
I want people to take away from kind of experiencing my music, experiencing my show, the idea that your creativity isn't age bound, your sense of what you can do and what you can accomplish and share with others isn't bound by age or genre, the way you connect together. So what I've noticed in my audience is a lot of, it's very wide ranging. Children come, adults come, young adults come, you know, it's very cross-generational, and I want people to feel that they can connect with themselves and other people and not shy away from certain venues or certain types of artists because maybe it's a young people's thing. Or
Have
like
you had that from older people in your crowd thinking, well, I thought you were just going to be some crazy young person, but actually, or vice versa, I thought you were some like old lady.
You know what? I haven't heard that. What I love about the intensity of my show is that people tend to leave feeling elevated somehow. They feel high on some kind of good vibration, and I love that.
You kind of tie me back to the spirituality aspects of things you described earlier. And did you start playing in church or at all?
No, I didn't really grow up in a Christian household.
Sure.
I mean, my grandma's Christian, and I had my own chapter of Christianity in my late teens, early 20s, and I kind of went in and
Peaked and
out
troughed
and
and
peaked and
peaked.
troughed and peaked and troughed. But I tell you what I did do for a little while was play organ. Because of my classical training, I did play organ at my grandma's church for maybe a year and just sort of sight read. She goes to a Methodist church and sort of sight read the hymns. And so I didn't have a Pentecostal kind of training in that way. But I did have a kind of awareness of spirituality.
Yeah, whether or not it's a formal environment of a church or even just DJing. And again, maybe your dad used to do those things
my
as
dad
well.
would take me
Just
to
to the wrong places for a child to
he
be in.
DJ'd, him and my uncle have got a sound, and me and my
wow.
sister are always going to like a wedding or a party or a
There you go.
dance,
And you'll know the power of music, the transformative power of music to sort of change people's moods.
Completely.
You know.
Completely, yes. I did grow up around a lot of varying types of musical experience.
And I guess that gives you a connection or experience and kind of the power that the cello contains, that music contains.
And it really does, and that's why I really like the concert hall space for that intimacy and that ability to really delve in and be enveloped by the sound. But equally, I love a concert, I love a festival, so it's nice to grow in that way.
We're also living in really intense political, social times. There's a lot of upheaval. Everyone's talking about, black kids stabbing each other in the streets of London and across the country.
Yeah.
Do you think the music you make or music in general can give you a lens or a perspective into these things, or do you have a particular perspective that you think?
Big time. It's funny you say that. Actually, the potential title track for the album is a song I've got called Roadman, which is exactly about doing what you can to survive on the streets of London. And because I grew up in Tottenham, specifically, taking that as one of my inspirations. And it's an observation on what people do to survive. And I think there's a lot of survival in all of these stories. It's not because people want to do these things for fun necessarily. Some people do. Some people are kind of, there's a game going on
in every community, surely.
But I think the reaction to that is people trying to protect themselves and to survive and doing what you can in order to. It's a serious situation.
I sometimes
it's a very
think
serious situation.
Fear is a major motivator. If you're brought up in this, let's face it, white supremacist society, then even if you're a black kid, you grow up with these same sorts of fears. You think, I see a black person, I'm more on edge.
You know what, though?
I've got to defend myself.
I was having this conversation and saying, the one thing I don't feel is fear amongst my own people. I feel totally fine walking past a group of young males, because I'm familiar with them. Like, they're either a cousin or a friend of a cousin, so I don't feel scared. I just feel deeply saddened that someone's life can end before it's had the potential to kind of blossom into something beautiful.
I admit I've definitely straddled both feelings. Like feeling now, I think I've arrived at a position of where I live in Handsworth, and you'll see in Hartley as well the sense of community that gives you a sense of warmth and grounding that you can't get anywhere else in the world. Right? These are my people.
These are my people. Yeah.
But I can't deny that as a teenager.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the person you're looking at is going to bully you.
Right, and it may be different for you.
There's a layer of it. Yeah, maybe
as a male. Yeah, I don't know. I know there are differences.
For a while as well.
No.
True that.
It's true. But I think that compassion is the most important thing to have. Like, I'd never want to suspect someone ahead of anything even happening. I don't want to walk around feeling like someone's a danger to me when nothing's even, because now I'm stressed for no reason, you know? So I'd rather be on the side of, you know, feeling positive when I step out the house.
But perhaps that is a question. Like, maybe your experiences as an artist or a creative have given you, I'm thinking for myself, that level of freedom as well.
Right.
Because I recognize how transformative that is.
And seeing the best in people. You know, I meet lots of strangers, but because of the power of the music or the concert, we connect on a deeper way than we would have if we were sitting on the tube opposite one another. You know, we now have something that connects us on a beautiful level. Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion at the moment too about, is grime causing people to stab each other, which I find frankly ridiculous.
We had this with hip hop, didn't we?
We had it with hip hop.
We had
reggae,
it.
Probably Lovers Rock in the 70s was like, you know,
probably
making people stab each other and take drugs.
Yeah, rock and roll, everything's had it.
Right. Jazz, for goodness sakes.
Jazz, true. With the drugs and everything. And I wouldn't say a genre of music can make anyone do. If anything, they're expressing what was already there. And has been there for a long time. It's often a reflection of one's experiences. And you can't stop someone wanting to express themselves. Why should they? You know, it's your story and there's a place for it. I
do, though, fear that when those labels or tags come from outside the culture and put into the music, that we start to internalize those things and think,
yes, you can.
Yeah, well, you know, I just make Roadman music, and without realizing your bars and beats can be talking about any strata of society, any experience.
Right, and that's what I've found. I mean, hip hop's so huge, you know, there's all kinds now, but what I want people to do most is find their unique voice and their unique stories within whatever space they're in. And I think there are way more stories than just a love story or just or whatever story.
It's usually from people who don't live in the hood, if you know what I mean. They're not from Tottenham, they're not from Handsworth. They've got a glorified version of what the trap house is. And they'll start fantasizing and writing about that sort of stuff, as opposed to the nurse or the primary school teacher or the lollipop lady. They've got stories.
Yeah, everyone has a story, and that's the beauty of being a songwriter. Is I wrote a song for Nigella Lawson, talking about how I felt, I guess, about her domestic abuse situation. You know, and I sing it as if it's my story, but it's her story. But I've resonated with it, and I feel like I have something to kind of share in that space. So it's not just about your own perspective. You can delve into other people's worlds, but do so sensitively, you know, be
There's something so deep about writing in the first person as well.
Yeah.
Getting your head and spirit and soul inside somebody else.
Yes, the empathy, and you really have to open yourself up in a new way. Yeah.
Man, I am throwing the bit with excitement to get you out to Birmingham, man. It's going to be really, really amazing.
And now that I know the vibe, like, I've got songs like, you know, Rise Up and Roadman, and you know, they're perfect. This would be perfect.
All I can say is Birmingham's not ready, and Ayanna, whatever you heard, you ain't ready. You don't know, it's about to go down.
I'm not ready. I can't wait.
Thank you so much for taking the time out today.
Thank you for having me.
And
thank you.
Most importantly, when's this album dropping? Is it going to be out before Flyover show? Soon after?
Maybe out around that
dropping
time.
Some singles?
Yeah, we'll be dropping some singles. Right. Yes, definitely.
Nice.
200%.
Look out for what might be called Roadrunner.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And follow Ayanna Witter-Johnson on all.
I'm not blind, but your fears are obscuring the light. It's a strange game to play. You know that I'm yours. You say that you want me, then push me away. I don't know how to get close to you when you're drifting on a cloud of confusion that just ain't true. There's a bond that's beyond what we think we control, but my patience is almost through. Too many men with mouths to feed, still spreading the seed. Too many gal can't find vacancies with a second degree. So don't sit down or play dumb when the devil is moving. You're on the run. Don't look back, it's already done. 6 shots and an empty gun, cause it's not a joke no more. These little brothers on the road to war, they need to lose the hype, but these brothers are gonna lose their lives. It's time for more knowledge now. Too many people don't know how. Too many people living in doubt, cause they're scared to let the light shine out. Why? Don't waste my time, I spend hours working mine. You say you're talking the hardest, but who here's really the artist? Now you're chasing pavements, hoping hide and seek in the dark might save you, but that's not smart. There's a recipe to being the greatest: skill, patience, dedication. But you're ready for war to defend your gold, mate. The battle was lost when your fathers were sold. So where's the compensation? So squeezed you can barely breathe, much less raise a family. You're still recovering from Tupac and Biggie. At what cost will you lose your mind to fit in? Deny the riches of your blessed mahogany skin.